Hi, I'm kind of coming out of nowhere. So I'm not a professional content creator, so don't ask me why I had this idea in the first place. I just listened to my heart, okay? I'm just someone who wanted to share a small and harmless video. So, I really love ALNST. I'm a fan of ALNST, a series you are probably already familiar with if you're watching this. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to share my detailed thoughts on every relationship or pairing, including the non-romantic ones as well. I'm going to make some disclaimers before starting. Okay, first of all, this is purely my own subjective and biased opinion, just like anyone else. I don't claim to know everything about any ship, and this video is made mostly and honestly only for entertainment purposes. Secondly, I don't fundamentally hate any pairing in ALNST. I think they are all great in some extent. That said, some of my takes might disappoint you or simply not resonate with you, which makes sense since this is, my opinion, everything about any ship, and this video is made mostly and honestly only for entertainment purposes. Secondly, I don't fundamentally hate any pairing in ALNST. I think they are all great in some extent. That said, some of my takes might disappoint you or simply not resonate with you, which makes sense since this is, my opinion. So feel free to share your own thoughts as well. And with that being said, I think we should begin. So, starting with the most iconic one in my opinion, the relationship that started it all, Mizisua. I always had a soft spot for Mizisua, honestly, even on a purely visual level. The respective color palettes, this is how we say in English, work beautifully together. Everything matches so well, like simply in terms of their colors, I think they look great together. Of course, I don't think anyone really expected their relationship to turn out to be this toxic, quote-unquote, or at least unhealthy in a certain way. I don't really know how else to phrase it, let's say uncomfortable. Despite that, I actually appreciate the plot twist we got recently. From Missy's side, I don't really have many complaints. She's a character who's clearly looking for a sort of escape, someone who, despite being drowned in praise and reduced to an object from a very young age, still managed to look positively on the world surrounding her, even if it was a coping mechanism and that she's not that oblivious, of course. I really like the fact that we can understand why she fell in love with Sua. She's drawn to her fragile and gentle nature, and she's someone that she could technically break if she wanted to. And yet, love ends up taking over. Her feelings grow stronger, and she reaches a point where she simply can't live without her Sua anymore. I think that if Mitzi loves Sua so deeply, it's probably also, this is just my own interpretation, because Sua doesn't drown her in compliments, while also never putting her down. Honestly, yeah, Mitzi is really well written. You can tell I love her. Now, on Sua's side, even though it's fairly easy to understand why she loves Mitzi, I would have liked VIVINOS to give us more insight into her perspective. That we have nothing. We did get a few comics, but nothing substantial enough, especially when compared to the depth and complexity given to Mitzi. Still, I genuinely believe that those two are soulmates, and like even until, or even if you wanna look at whom we'll talk about later, don't worry. Now I'm entering a dangerous zone. Let's talk about the two characters who were for a long time very much in the spotlight, Ivan and Till. To start with, Ivan is by far my favorite character in ALNST, and probably one of my favorite fictional characters of all time across any media. That being said, and even though this might sound completely insane to a lot of people, and don't worry, I'm aware of that, I don't ship Ivan and Chill at all.
What?
Oh my god. Their relationship is fascinating and I love them deeply, but I personally prefer a more platonic version of their dynamic, at least from Till's side. And I kind of noticed that a lot of persons seem really passionate about Eva and Till as a couple, which I of course completely understand. But I think their relationship could have worked in a universe where the circumstances were less extreme. To sum up the things quickly, I think that the relationship is more of a love that could have been but was not, rather than Till having obvious unrealized feelings for Ivan. So as things stand now, and with what we're currently shown, I genuinely don't feel like Till had any unrealized romantic feelings for Ivan, as I already said. That being said, once again, their bond remains incredibly compelling, and Ivan is undeniably one of the most important figures in Till's life. I would never try to deny that. Honestly, the reason I love Ivan so much is because he's chasing a love that will never be returned, a love he doesn't believe he deserves, yet one that continues to exist within him regardless. So I prefer to see them as best friends. I know it's controversial, where one of them is hopelessly in love, of course, and I also don't think they would work well as a couple. Like, honestly, I just don't ship them. That's really simple. Till might be Ivan's first love and possibly his last. Yeah, I'm totally fine. I think they would both be better off with very different kinds of people, and I'm just not a fan of their potential as a romantic couple. So please don't kill me. I know they're the fan favorites. This is just my interpretation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. They do have a wonderful character arc though, till realizing that everything Ivan had done all along was for him, but realizing it far too late, and then coming to see Ivan as family. This is so important to me, but also incredibly impactful and really well composed. So even if I don't ship them, you gotta admit that their writing is absolutely on point. When I first started watching ALNST, I had a hard time getting attached to Hyuna and Luca. Strangely enough, theirs felt like the easiest relationship to understand. So you get this man who's head over heels for this woman, but this woman is actually conflicted, but she still loves him. Oh, and he also killed her brother, but don't worry about it. Classic move. I don't know. Compared to the others, it just didn't really grab my attention at first. But when I actually sat down and took a closer look at the writing, let's just say, I was both mesmerized and disappointed. Hyuluka is, in my opinion, the pairing that had the most potential in terms of emotional devastation. But like many others, I also feel like their relationship ended up being quite rushed. The issue isn't really the foundation of their relationship, but rather its outcome. While both Suwa and Ivan were given unforgettable, iconic deaths, carefully built up with enough screen time to fully develop them, Hyuna, on the other hand, is given a rather disappointing death. And yeah, it honestly hurts me to admit that because I love her. Everything was there to make their relationship truly compelling, starting perhaps with giving us moral build-up and perspective. I'm not a professional writer, so in the end I can only offer criticism, but I do because VIVINOS had already given us two romantic pairings filled with a lot of care and love, and I truly believe the same could have been done for Hyuna and Luca. Hyuna's death feels abrupt, almost as if it's come out of nowhere, and it frustrates me to admit it because nothing really suggested that she was ready to sacrifice herself for him in the first place. And the fact that her death results from a sudden accident, even if, yeah, I know he's supposed to be her one and only weakness, but there was better ways to wrap up her death. So the idea itself isn't uninteresting, but here it feels rather clumsily executed. I almost get the impression that the staging itself lacked intention. Additionally, both Eventil and Mizisua were given episodes entirely dedicated to their relationships. Luca and Hyuna, unfortunately, didn't get that privilege. We end up with a single episode, which is Vige, that constantly oscillates between Hyu-Luca moments and sequences focused on other characters, because why not? This is not a problem in itself, but I don't think it was the right place to do so. Apparently, Hyuna and Luca weren't meant to be as important as the other 4 characters, even if I don't know where this information comes from. I just read it somewhere on the internet. But in that case, why introduce them in such a compelling way only to rush and mishandle their relationship afterward? Especially when it was the perfect opportunity to present a dynamic with entirely different stakes and themes. That being said, once again, I love them dearly, and I would give anything to see them end up together because they truly deserve it. I highly recommend this video, link in the description, which you may have already seen and which explains far better than I ever could what doesn't quite work in their relationship. Now that we've covered the 3 main ships, I'd like to briefly mention a few other relationships that clearly deserve attention, even if they aren't romantic or only one-sided. So starting with, yeah, I know it's a dangerous zone once again, Mitzi and Till. Probably the most controversial and debated dynamic of all. Yes, Mitzi is absolutely not in love with Till, and there's no chance of that ever happening. I thought that was obvious, but apparently not. Even still, I really appreciate their dynamic because it symbolizes a lot of things on both sides of this pairing. Obviously, we know that Mitzi suffered greatly from all the attention she received from the other children, especially the boys who saw her as cute, innocent, radiant, and so on. And while I do believe that these qualities are, to some extent, genuine, those expectations ended up suffocating her and completely blurring the way she sees herself. Someone who isn't allowed to have flaws, but more importantly, someone who feels like a monstrous being responsible for the death of the people she loved most. But in all of this, can we really blame Till? He's a lost child, searching for something soft and warm, something he finds in Mitzi. And there is no problem with that. From there, he develops a strong attachment, which, in my eyes, is romantic, if you asked me. Yes, he idealizes her, but I think both things can coexist. And by the way, yes, his love was shallow, because we do know from the recent comics that his feelings disappeared. But at the moment, I do think it was a romantic attraction. I also believe that Till's presence reminds us that Mitzi wasn't entirely fake, nor was she constantly acting. It was more of a survival mechanism, even if she struggled to find a reason to live. Her warmth and childlike nature are genuine. I truly believe that. And that warmth allowed people like Sua and even Till to momentarily escape the suffering of their worlds by taking refuge in this idealized version of her, even though Sua was obviously far closer to her than Till ever was. And on top of that, Mitzi genuinely wanted to be friends with him, but our poor Till just keeps running away every time he sees her. But that didn't stop Mitzi from wanting to be close to him, treating him as a genuine friend, which is really wholesome, you know, the xylophone scene. Yeah, it's adorable. Ivan and Sua, the siblings. Okay, so they are probably my favorite 100% platonic pairing, and I genuinely don't understand why more people don't take the time to seriously analyze their relationship You know, beyond the usual jokes like, haha, they are so sibling coded, or look, Ivan chases Sua and she gets annoyed and she beats him up. Like, there is so much more to say about them. But don't get me wrong though, I still love their bond when it's portrayed in a more comedic way. But there's so much content surrounding them that I'm honestly just surprised that we never got like an official cover with the two of them singing together. They resemble each other in many ways while still being fundamentally different. Ivan genuinely seems to care about Sua. He follows her everywhere, sees her as a sort of little sister, even though she's technically older than him, which I love, and constantly teases her. But you can tell that he enjoys spending time with her genuinely, not just because she entertains him, but because he truly worries about her. I think Ivan sees a reflection of himself in her. It's practically canon at this point. Sua is emotionally dependent on Midzi, just as he's emotionally dependent on Till. And while yes, he's jealous of the relationship and the bond she has with Midzi, he still kind of has this sort of selfless relationship with her, which I do love, even though he was being a hypocrite. You know, that famous comic. But anyways, I don't want to enter into too much details. As for Sua, she's almost always angry when he's around her. But I'm convinced that she cares about him too, like she just will never show it. After all, she even mentions him in her sub-song as, I quote, the scarlet jellyfish, which implies that she considers him one of her friends. What's interesting is that Sua, who's usually cold or distant with others, either indifferent, jaded, or anxious, is simply just angry with him. And generally speaking, I don't know for you guys, we tend to get irritated more easily around people we feel comfortable with. And on top of that, she's almost like, she never pushes him away, except when he's really going out of his way like to annoy her. And overall, they have really they do have a really fun dynamic. I love them. VIVINOS, QMENG, please give us more content. Like, I really love them. Finally, let's talk about Odir, Hyuna, and Midzi, one of the most important and I'd say almost the most important secondary relationship in the entire series. Okay, quick side note, after some thought, I won't be talking about Ivan and Midzi, aside from the fact that Midzi seemed comfortable around him and that they are apparently best friends. There's just so little content surrounding them that I didn't really see the point, and I wasn't really passionate about them enough in order to dedicate an entire section to them, so I'm sorry. Hyuna appears to be Midzi's complete opposite. She doesn't care about danger at all, she's reckless and apologetic and sings for herself purely to uplift herself and the others. Midzi, on the other hand, despite having gone through a similar childhood and similar trauma, is completely disoriented next to her. At first, she's hesitant, uncooperative, and above all, extremely nervous and doubtful when it comes to the rebellion's plan, before ultimately ruining it during karma. Their ideals clearly clash. Midzi wants to cherish the people she loves in the present, while Hyuna thinks in terms of future generations, something Midzi perceives as overly idealistic. And yet, I think they aren't as opposed as they might seem. Both of them place immense value on love, just in very different ways. Their relationship had so much potential, which is why I'm kind of disappointed that we only got a single comic where we actually see and hear them interact. I would have loved to know, just to have more information about their respective struggles, especially about what Hyuna truly thought of Midzi, before dying. Does she regret saving her instead of someone else? Did Hyuna trust Midzi enough to talk about her past and about her connection to Luca, maybe? Still, their dynamic stands as proof that ALNST is capable of highlighting relationships that aren't exclusively romantic, even within the main episodes themselves, which I really appreciated. Okay, we're done now. Yeah, the ending is really abrupt. Thank you so much for watching this video and taking the time to watch it all along and until the end. it really means a lot to me. Now I'm thinking about making other videos on ALNST just because I want to just share my love for this series that really impacted me greatly. And yeah, see you next time. Take the time to subscribe, maybe if you want me to bother you again. Like the video or not, honestly I don't care, but if you do so, I mean, it's cool. It won't change anything to my life, but like, as always, thank you and see you next time.